This is the world according to Jen and Carolyn.
Hi.
Oh, hey there.
How are you?
You know, wonderful.
Are you really wonderful?
No. The only thing that's wonderful about Thursday nights is we don't have any child activity obligation.
That is really good. And also my work from home days are Monday and Friday. So I get to ease into my work day nice and slow like tomorrow. And I really like that. I like to bookend it with my work from home days.
Always nice.
It is nice.
Especially coming off of a long extended weekend in Santa Barbara.
That was very nice. Took a little road trip, just me and the husband. Left the child in the capable hands of my best friend and podcast partner, Carolyn. And yeah, we had a good time.
Had a really good time. It was fun. Someone was asking about it just today at work, and I said, "Oh yeah, Santa Barbara, loved it. Like just a lot of different things to do. I thought it was cool."
It was cool. Did you love it because the official dog of Santa Barbara appears to be the golden retriever?
Oh my Lord.
I mean, Santa Barbara is really white, so it makes sense there are a lot of golden retrievers.
But seriously,
but we have one too.
It's like San Francisco's where everyone has like some sort of pit mix.
Yeah,
and Santa Barbara's where everyone has a golden.
Oh yeah. It was crazy. Everywhere we went, it was like a fucking golden party. It was crazy. It was a golden shower.
Oh, Lord.
The best kind.
Don't you love it when she sets herself up, everybody?
I do. Our Kelly was joke. There. It was great. No. Ooh, awful. Speaking of awful, that article you sent me about the fucking dude who hid for 6 months in some secret room inside of an abandoned Circuit City was fucking nuts.
I saw that and it just like, it was a true crime thing. I know you like that. So, and I'm trying to read articles like that before I send them. Sometimes I just send you articles about stuff you enjoy without even reading them.
Yeah.
It could be an awful article. My fault. But that was crazy. This dude that just like I don't know if he got kicked out of the army. I can't remember that part of the story. And then all of a sudden went on a spree of robberies of fast food joints by cutting into the roof and rappelling down like a Navy SEAL.
Mission Impossible.
Oh, yeah.
That's fucking nuts.
Oh, yeah. And then and did you like the part where they said he was very courteous and he was holding
super polite.
Up?
He's like, "Please, ma'am, can you get on the ground?" But I think he at the end, because he seems like not a super bad guy. So they have to, at the end of this article, throw in like, oh, before you start thinking he's some sort of Robin Hood, like he pistol whipped somebody once and, abandoned his family, which he did because he went on the run. He escaped. This motherfucker, if I remember correctly, escaped from prison. He was on laundry duty.
Yeah, he had the good behavior, got the sweetheart
prisoner.
deal.
Yeah, and the motherfucker, like straight out of a movie, clung to the bottom of the laundry truck and got the hell out of there and escaped to a whole ass new town, started a new life, started going to church. And because he was going between a Toys R Us, which was still in operation, and an abandoned Circuit City, the church parishioners were like, he was so nice. He gives so many toys away at Christmas.
Yep.
So fucking good.
And then they do the whole like almost like the movie Heat, where he had to go back for the girl one last time. And that's what got him because they trapped him.
It was so dramatic the way they wrote it. They're like, he showed up with a bouquet of flowers and that's when the police got him.
And his comment to the police like, oh, you guys figured it out. Good job on you.
Did a good job. Like, yeah. And I think he's
like a TV show.
Oh yeah. You can't make this. Truth is truly stranger than fiction, or an inspiration for fiction. That's some crazy ass shit, man.
That was funny too, that he tried to escape 2 more times.
Yes, he did. That's what I was going to say.
Didn't work. Yeah.
He's like, fuck it. I did it once. I'm going full Shawshank.
But he started out in, the reason it caught we saw the article was on the SF Gate website, I believe, but this was happening in Sacramento originally.
Oh, right.
Where
that's
he was
right.
robbing the places. So
that's right. That was the origin. Sacramento, a local story gone national.
Speaking of Sacramento, I sent you that article about the California State Fair with the different concerts. And
dude, we're going.
And and I love the way the article started out where it's like, oh, the cost of all these festivals and all those things are going up in price. Like if you want to see acts that are pretty good at a way cheaper price, check out the California State Fair. And I was like, did you see the ticket price at the end? It's like $14 for an adult or $18 or something. It's a fair,
because all of the concerts are included with your fair admission typically. So I remember I was so fucking pissed. I don't remember what year this was, but it was a long time ago, at least 20 years ago. And we went to the San Mateo County Fair and we just rolled in all lackadaisical and we're like, Weird Al's going to be here. Well, Weird Al sold out so fast, like the arena booked up so fast.
Oh, so you needed a separate ticket?
You didn't need a separate ticket necessarily, but they met capacity like immediately. People were like, I'm going to see Weird Al. And so I was so bummed. And so I still need to see Weird Al. He's a bucket list for me. I think he's phenomenal. I bet you have.
It was he lived up to it. But
he's so talented.
But yeah, compared to like festival tickets, this is a steal, especially. I was wondering when I sent it to you which band that the article named was going to be the one that you were like, this is the one I'm down for. And you said Digital Underground, right?
Digital Underground and Flo Rida. I'm like, that's fucking sick, dude.
Flo Rida, it seems like the new generation's Nelly, where this is right up his alley there.
Kind of, but he's not even the new generation. Like he's more like, 2010-ish?
Yes, probably.
Yeah. This is for some. If you're into brand new acts, you're not going to catch Beyonce at the State Fair. That's true. But you could catch, are the Beach Boys coming or what remains of the Beach Boys?
Well, the Beach Boys have been, I don't know, Brian Wilson is the one that we saw, right?
Yes.
So he hasn't traveled with the Beach Boys.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, but I think he went, I think it was a conservatorship thing. I think.
That's recently. Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But I want to say he had, it was like him and maybe one other original Beach Boy would travel and say they were the Beach Boys. And then there were three others or whatever. The rest of them were traveling together saying they were the Beach Boys. So it was always kind of Beach Boys starring Brian Wilson or just the Beach Boys or whatever. But
I think Manson just fractured that.
But it said John Stamos played with them at Coachella.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy.
Was that in an episode of Full House? I feel like it must have been.
It was. Okay. I'm almost positive. Yeah,
that sounds right.
But, okay, so I always trip out. You know the connection between Charles Manson and the Beach Boys, right?
Didn't Brian Wilson write music with Charlie? I
think it was Brian Wilson or maybe another member of the Beach Boys who thought Manson was awesome and like brought him home to the other Beach Boys and he was like, gotta check this guy out. And the other Beach Boys were like, no, this guy is a fucking hack. And he also appears to be schizophrenic. This isn't going to work out, bro. But like, I think Manson would like bring girls back to Brian Wilson's house or whichever Beach Boy he became familiar with. And, they really liked the girls that Manson would bring around because they were all extremely attractive. Of course. And so that's why they tolerated crazy ass Charlie bouncing around talking about like, the devil and shit and killing people. But yeah, that's the connection. Isn't that crazy?
Kind of. I feel like that's like, you want to be friends with that guy. If he's always like showing up at a party and he's kind of the weirdo dude, but he's bringing attractive women to parties, you're like, oh, I'll definitely tolerate this.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Well, if he's talking about how he killed people, then no.
Well, he never really killed anybody. It's debatable. He may have killed one person. Right. He was just a manipulative piece of crap.
But it's like if I, think of it. Obviously, I'm not going to hang around with anyone that I know has the capacity to murder someone. Right. And we've probably all hung out with people that you're like, that person's probably going to kill someone one day.
Please check out my episode on my other podcast, The World According to Jen and Carolyn, where I talk. Oh, this is a crossover episode. We forgot to totally mention that. So you're going to hear this on both platforms, both the Seen It with Bill and Jen platform and the World According to Jen and Carolyn platform. But what I was going to say is that I have an episode about a childhood friend of mine who became a serial killer called My Cousin the Serial Killer.
That's right.
But anyway, yeah. So we should mention that this is going to be a crossover episode.
Yeah.
Because Carolyn is going on a well-deserved vacation. And she and I, when she returns, are going to be covering the history of fraternities and sororities, the history of Greek life, as well as the good, bad, and the ugly of these institutions. And so Carolyn and I were like, oh, shit. Well, maybe Bill and Jen can review a sorority or fraternity themed movie in anticipation of our upcoming episode. But hang on, we'll tell you what that's going to be in a minute, because I want to get back to this music, the performers at the state fair, because I need to mention that Lucas Nelson, who's the son of Willie Nelson, is going to be performing.
Oh, yeah.
And then UB40, Red Wine fame, is going to be there as well.
Yep.
And these are all various fairs within California. I think northern, southern, all over California, right?
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
This state fair and those people are just going to be at Sacramento, just to answer your
this
question.
is just Sacramento. Okay.
Sacramento.
Shows how well I read this.
But could you name 2 other UB40 songs?
Don't they sing like "I Can't Help Falling in Love with You," which that's not their song originally.
But they were, it was made very popular by them.
Yes.
Yep. And I'll give you that credit for that one.
Beyond that, I can't, other than Red Wine. That's it.
The way you do the thing you do.
Oh yeah.
All right, the way you do the thing you do.
But that's a Four Top song, I think.
Doesn't matter.
Or Temptations.
Doesn't matter.
One of them. But yeah.
UB40 performed it.
UB40 really likes to steal Motown, apparently.
I guess so.
That's the conclusion I've come to. So yeah, apparently you and I are going to go to the Sacramento Fair a lot this summer.
Here I am, baby.
Okay, now before we oh God, you're in the zone, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Before we tell folks what movie we picked, because I think this article is the perfect segue. So Drew Magarty, whom we've mentioned before, who writes for SF Gate, it's our local San Francisco newspaper. He wrote
news website.
He wrote, I thought what I thought was a good article called "You Ever Notice That Jerry Seinfeld is a Talentless Prick?"
I know. I saw that title. Great title. He always has great titles.
Right. And the whole crux of the article essentially is Jerry is this 70-year-old man who is yearning for the days of comedy where you could make fun of someone's sexuality, make fun of someone's race, without impunity. He recently referred to, essentially comedy being dead and, because of this PC bullshit. And it's like, wow, this is so unfortunate. And, I love how Drew Magarty says a friend of his saw Jerry in 2019 and Jerry was making Star 69 jokes.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, dude, it's 2019. We haven't used Star 69 in like 20 plus years.
It's true. But I mean, again, the article is very good. But I think Jerry is still telling jokes to a generation of people that would pay the money he's charging to see him live. Yeah. There's not someone that's a high school, probably even a college student right now.
Yeah.
That is going to pay that money, I think, unless they're
could pay that money, and it's true. Maybe he's pandering to his audience, but I think the beauty of a good comic is, one, they don't need to rely on jokes where they punch down on people. Mm-hmm. You know who I'm talking about when I say punch down. Used to be a fan, not anymore. And the article mentions Drew Magarty is like Larry David, made you famous, etc. And you and I watched the most recent season, the last season of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which has always been a fucking amazing show and has changed with the times. There are jokes that were made in the first season that Larry David isn't, decrying. Oh, I'm so sad I can't make that inappropriate joke anymore, And Larry's brilliant. And he is somebody who has evolved with the times and whose comedy, I think, has stayed very consistent and very distinct, but has evolved.
Yeah. To be able to evolve and still keep the identity that you started with, that's the true talent there.
Totally.
I think you're right. I mean, I loved Seinfeld. I watched it religiously. Right. And I just made you watch an episode last night.
Which had things, and I'm not judging. Yeah. I am in no way judging 1990s episodes of Seinfeld with the same lens that I have now, because I've learned and I've grown, and a lot of us have. What I'm saying is Jerry now at 70 is hearkening for, the good old days of comedy where you can say shit and nobody would get upset, or the people who would get upset had no platform.
Yeah. Yeah. And my thing is, maybe he's wants some attention. A lot of people, when they were at the peak like he was at, and then all of a sudden they're not, they want that attention again. Because my thing is, if you want to think that, like I'm harking for those days and everything, just don't. Why say it out loud?
Yeah.
Why not just say you're hearkening for it? And that's it.
Yeah.
You know, instead of like making it a point. I don't know. Like,
it's too much. I don't know.
Just do your stand up and go into the sunset.
Yeah, exactly. Just go be a multimillionaire and drive your cars and
do special performances.
Yeah.
Like people still pay. Like,
and apparently make movies about like the founding of Special K. What's the movie?
It's a Pop-Tart. It's about like how Pop-Tart started or something. The joke was a Special K joke.
Oh my God.
But
I'm gonna link this article in our resources in our show notes because I think people would really enjoy it. I fucking enjoyed it. So I thought that this was a good segue to talk about the movie that we're reviewing this week because I found out. What did I find out?
Well, you found out that I hadn't seen in its entirety the fraternity/sorority movie Animal House.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. I don't think they had any.
Which is crazy because I was a fraternity guy, and to not have seen that whole movie, it's probably.
I know it's almost sacrilegious.
Yeah.
And when we talk about comedy evolving, right? It's you try not to look at it through today's lens and say, wow, there's a lot of homophobic jokes and wow, there's a lot of use of the other F word that we don't say. You know, it's just like this was made in 1978 and this is how folks rolled at the time. And if I give it a pass, for lack of a better word, because of the times and focus on the other brilliant aspects of the movie or the brilliant aspects of the movie. I mean, I think it's a good movie. I do. And there are parts of it where I'm like, oh shit. Like this dude's really sitting here considering whether or not he should rape this unconscious woman. Like that's
with
a lot.
The devil and the angel on each shoulder. Yeah.
That's a lot. Like for me, I'm like, oh, grab it, clutching my pearls and shit. Even though that's what I grew up with. You know, we grew up with Revenge of the Nerds
Spoiler
and Porky's and all that shit.
He listens to the angel.
Thank God. Because my boy Harold Ramis wrote it, and Harold Ramis is a good man. But, that's what constituted comedy at the time. So as a woman, it was hard to watch. Not a lot of diversity in the movie. But you've got John Belushi, who's fucking brilliant.
Yep.
He's brilliant. You just think he's an absolute, I was calling him Man Bear Pig from South Park. Because that's essentially his character. Man Bear Pig. It's appropriate,
I didn't watch Seinfeld. Or I didn't watch South Park. So
that was more your brother's department.
Yep. He enjoyed it.
But yeah.
The movie for me, it's interesting. I think possibly part of the reason I've never seen the movie all the way through is because people probably found out I hadn't seen it before and tried to get me to watch it in college, and we'd be drinking and I'd make it to a certain part and fall asleep every time or pass out or leave or whatever,
relatable.
So, because definitely there were scenes there that I'm like, I know exactly what happens here. And then there were other scenes where I'm like, oh, this is kind of familiar. And other scenes I'm like, never seen this before.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I liked it. It's fine. I could see how people in the late 70s and like 80s would think it was the most funniest movie ever type of thing. Yeah. But it has a spot, It reminded me of stuff as a fraternity guy. You know, that makes me laugh.
Yeah. And, comedy evolves not just, we grow and find the things that should have always been offensive. Not only talking about that, it's the comedy is reflective of a particular point in time. Like culturally, pop culture and, societal expectations and all that shit. It's like a time capsule. And so it's amazing that some of it is still as funny as it is.
That's true.
But so much of it, I think because that was our parents' generation, we can relate a little bit better. But I wonder how this generation, if they'd be like, this is fucking cringeworthy. Right. They wouldn't be able to handle it at all, which is good. I'm like, oh, the kids are learning. This is wonderful.
They'll take one look at the living conditions in the one fraternity house and be like, wait, no, people live there?
Honestly, that's the least offensive thing in that movie.
But when you're talking about this generation, like, imagine, I'm thinking like in 10 years, our kid would be 16. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I'm going to show you Animal House as we start going through movies. And I'm like, this is important for you to see these movies, and he'd be like, oh, Dad, you were in a fraternity? I'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, was it like that? Like that? I'm like, well, let me tell you the difference. And, because a lot changed between like when that took place in 62 or 68. They said it took place in the 60s.
They said it took place in 62.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but it was made in, I think, 78.
But that's crazy that, but
yeah,
that was, hey, frat life, bro.
Oh, boy. Well, you were that frat boy, weren't you?
No, I was not. I wasn't.
No,
you wouldn't be here.
You were a good frat boy. I would not be here if you were a traditional frat boy, like the other house that they have the altercation with, and they beat that one dude's ass up, and he's like, it was Greggy and Dougie and the rest of the Hitler Youth.
Yeah.
Like, so fucking good. They're like,
oh god,
like Aryan Nation white boys. It was fucking scary.
All, like doing the ROTC or whatever. But
oh yeah,
yeah, that just there's ceremony stuff and everything.
Oh
but,
god.
But my favorite part that brought back a memory for me was the band was playing. Was it Otis? Who was playing? What's the name of the band?
Otis Day. I think.
Otis Day.
Yeah.
And they're playing in their house.
Yeah.
And it's just all loud and da-da-da. And I was just thinking like, oh yeah, I remember a party when I was the president. We had a party where there was this band called the Brodies, great local band that we loved. And we always used to see them at the bars, and we asked them if they'd come play our one big party a year that we
That's
always
awesome.
do. And they said, sure. I was like, holy shit, they're going to be performing in our front room at our fraternity house. And they were in there and they were rocking. It was so much fun. But as a president, I kind of had to I had to keep it. I couldn't get too hammered or anything like that, because you kind of have to answer questions if anything happens, whatever. And sure as shit, someone's like, oh, the cops are here. Like go get Billy. Like, where's the cop? He'll talk to him. So I go out there, cops, and then I went to UC Davis. So this was in Davis. And the cops were totally cool. In my mind, for the first thing, they were like, hey, we got a call from some neighbors, so we got to come by and we got to tell you. You gotta quiet it down. I'm like, no problem, officer. Yes, officer. I was always like, whatever you say, officer. He's like, now, if I have to come back here, I'm not going to be as nice. So, and I was like, oh yeah, officer, not a problem. Da, 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 da. So I'm like, oh no, I'm like, I don't, I never want to get in trouble with the law. So I go back in, and the band just finishes the song, and I go up. I'm like, hey, 1 second. I go talk to the lead singer. I'm like, hey, the cops just came by and they want me to ask if you could just turn it down a little bit. He's like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, the cops, they just asked if you could turn it down a little bit. He's like, okay, no. I was like, all right, carry on. And, I'm not going to be like, no, wait, hold on a second.
Can't be a nerd.
So I was like, no, definitely not. So, of course, volume doesn't go down, and I'm just counting it down to like, oh, Billy, the cops are back. By then, the kegs were tapped, so no one cared at that point, and they were just there listening to the band. And so I got the noise violation, and yeah.
And you were worried it was going to go on your permanent record.
Oh yeah.
And there wasn't the judge like, no, dude, it's like a parking ticket.
Well, this is pre-internet where you can look that stuff up. So everyone's just like, I'm not going to go to jail for a noise violation. So I had to go travel to the northern town of Woodland where the courthouse was, and find out that it doesn't go against your record, and pay the fine, and
hey,
party.
All's well that ends well, right? And the Eric Stratton story that you told me was fucking hilarious.
Because the main character's name, or one of the pledge chair guy, is Eric Stratton. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, they used to call this guy, I think his first name was Eric, but he had a different last name. And they used to call him Eric Stratton. And I'm like, that's not his name. Like, it doesn't say that. Like, and for this whole time, I'm like, oh, I guess he's Eric Stratton. I call him Eric Stratton. And all of a sudden, like later, they're like, that's not his real name. I'm like, wait, what? And I hadn't seen Animal House, so I didn't know that was the big joke.
It's so good.
And so they used to go around with his lines like, Eric Stratton, damn glad to meet you.
So good.
All the pledge stuff.
I love it.
And Rush stuff, they do that.
I love it. And all those guys are really lovable too, especially Boone. I love it. And Karen Allen, who played Katie, I freaking love her. She was in Scrooged. What else was she in again?
She was Indiana Jones' crush.
Indiana Jones. That's right.
That's where I would know her most from.
Yes. And Tom, I don't know if it's Hulse or Hulse. I can't remember. But I freaking love him. He played Amadeus. He played Mozart in Amadeus. Yeah.
He's the other pledge. Yeah.
I think he may have won an Oscar for that. But that's one of my favorite movies ever. So when I was like, that's the dude from Amadeus. And
Yep.
you were looking at the wrong dude initially on IMDb, and you're
yeah.
like, no, it's not. I'm like, dude, that's him.
Well, yeah,
Like,
because the other person I know from that movie outside of Belushi is Niedermeyer. Everyone's like, oh, Niedermeyer was in the We're Not Gonna Take It.
Twisted Sister
video.
Yeah.
He had more than one video, I think.
Yeah.
But at least in that one. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's Niedermeyer.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is, I enjoyed it. It's nostalgic. You know, it was written by Harold Ramis, and I think John Belushi, or I'm not sorry. I can't talk. Ivan Reitman was one of the directors, and, you know, it's just, it's reflective of that type of comedy and that period in time. And we can laugh at what's funny, and we can kind of shake our heads at what's no longer funny or should have never been funny. And I think ultimately we can enjoy the experience. However, like I said, I don't think the generation after us would enjoy it at all. But this is a good thing, folks. Look how woke we are. But yeah, that's it. We hope you enjoyed our crossover episode. So we're going to give it to you on both platforms. Seen It with Bill and Jen, as well as The World According to Jen and Carolyn. We hope you enjoy. You can follow us both at Seen It. That's SCENEIT. What is it? Seen It B and J?
No, just BJ.
Oh yeah, Seen It BJ. That's right. Oh, and we like to keep it dirty. So you can also follow Carolyn and I at Twat JC. That's the World According to Jen and Carolyn. Twat JC. We hope you enjoyed that. And we hope you enjoy this show. And we'll see you probably next week. Who knows? Thanks.
Bye.